Welcome back to another episode of 40 Facts About the 40K Universe. I am your host, Gersh1, and you are watching One Mind Syndicate. Today we continue talking about the Imperium as we get into the Adeptus Arbites, or the Adeptus Arbites. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. We post Warhammer 40K lore videos every single day. If you have any suggestions, please comment down below. And if you enjoy our content, thank our patrons on Patreon. It's because of them that we can do this. Link in the description if you guys want to support us. With that said, let's get into 40 facts on the Adeptus Arbites. Arbitrators are recruited from exceptional members of the Schola Progenium from all over the Imperium. This organization fosters the orphan children of the high-ranking Imperial servants, whether they are scholars, scribes, or soldiers, and grooms them for their own life of dedicated service. Those chosen for service in the Adeptus Arbites are selected for a variety of reasons. Such candidates could be those who dominate their fellow progenia through force of will, or those who show an attention to detail and an analytical mind. Ultimately, any candidate must be exceptional if they are to serve within the Adeptus Arbites. It is ensured that new arbitrators have no ties or connections whatsoever to worlds on which they have been stationed, so there is no weakness of blackmail or coercion exploits. Arbitrators are famously incorruptible. Though the term arbitrator is often used to indicate the members of the Adeptus Arbites as a whole, there are in fact many ranks within a given sector that may be bestowed upon such individuals. These titles are selected for each world or subsector to instill fear in the local culture. In a sector rife with heresy, such as the Calic sector, it is crucial that the Adeptus Arbites officers is instantly obeyed. Therefore, a Lord Marshal might allow individual precincts to title their officers as they best see fit. These titles often deviate greatly from the precinct to precinct. Furthermore, specialists found within a sector often find their titles altered, even from one locale to another. Once trained and deployed on world, the lowest rank are most commonly set patrolling the streets in small squads, discouraging trouble by their menacing presence. This is especially true in many of the hive cities of the highly populated hive worlds, which serve as proving and burial grounds for any fleeting arbitrator. Those novice arbitrators who prove themselves may be promoted to the rank of investigator, a title chosen to strike fear into the nobles of the Imperial world, who have many secrets. Some may show themselves to be highly capable in the field, even in high-pressure, life-threatening situations, and to be tasked with guiding field operations. Others are tireless at rooting out evidence and leads, as well as having an excellent command of Imperial law and how to apply it, and they may be promoted to even higher ranks. Many Lord Marshals value skill, tenacity, and faith, and to that end, higher and more specialized appointments are awarded to those officers with exceptional talent in particular areas. Those who truly excel in the detection of crime may become the ultimate spy masters, tacticians, and forensic experts. No wrongdoer is too well hidden to escape their notice or evade their cunningly laid traps. Those who specialize in trial and prosecution, who boast an encyclopedia-like knowledge of the Lex Imperialis and a gift for speech and incisive accusations, may be tasked with presiding over glorious show trials and passing judgment upon those great individuals who have failed in their duties to the Emperor. Arbitrators whose particular skills lie in the application of extreme brutality and military force, or the command of men in battle, and who have proven time and again that they are impossible to kill, may be promoted to the level of Proctor or Marshal. Proctors derive their name from the ancient military traditions in the Underhive of Gunmetal City, a term that carries with it an air of divine justice. They specialize in crushing riots and insurrections in the most hostile of districts, deep within the Hive City's steel and iron caverns. Arbites High Marshals are the commanders who control the deployment of resources across the precincts of an entire planet or even multiple planetary systems. They serve at the direct appointment of the Lord Marshal, and there is no higher imperial legal authority on the planet. unless an Inquisitor decides to open a dialogue on a subject. It is they who bear the heavy burden of allocating men and equipment, trusting to their own judgment and the Emperor's will that their force will be in the right place at the right time. A few remarkable individuals may, after a long and illustrious career, be elevated to the rank of judge. Judges are iron-willed lords of justice who have far-reaching powers, an extraordinary mandate, and influence not far below an Inquisitor. They investigate and sit in judgment over those who commit the most heinous crimes, and will go to any lengths to pursue and capture or destroy a perpetrator. All arbitrators of high rank will readily deliver their sentence personally through the barrel of a gun, and have the power to deploy the uncompromising force of the arbitrators when it is necessary. Should the need arise, perhaps if an entire planet has fallen to civil unrest, they even have the influence to request and receive the full might of the Imperial Guard to restore Pax Imperialis, though in such cases the population of the planet is often substantially reduced. It should be noted that while the Adeptus Arbites enforces galaxy-wide Imperial law, every world and the star systems will have its own laws, inherited through tradition or imposed on by several planetary governors. Each world's ruler will maintain their own policing force, recruiting locally, and often outnumbering the arbitrators 1,000 to 1. These local law enforcement officers are commonly known in Imperial jargon simply as enforcers, though they are each called by their own title on each world they serve. These native enforcers often mimic the Arbites in appearance, but their local ties and often less rigorous standards mean that they are far more susceptible to corruption. The objectives of local enforcers and Imperial arbitrators often overlap, and the two work in conjunction when it is mutually beneficial. However, there are also occasions when they come into direct conflict. In practice, the arbitrators are tasked to punish criminal activity, root out cultists and illegal gatherings, eliminate organized gangs, and are often unleashed en masse to quell riots. They must be as willing to dispense justice as they are to pronounce it. Often the punishment will be a swift bullet to the brain, or the perpetrator will have expired during the process of apprehension and interrogation. Other sentences amongst the hundreds of thousands available in Imperial law include flogging, limb amputation, exile to a prison world, condemnation to a penal legion, public execution, or conversion into a servitor. Arbitrators have the power to commandeer local enforcers and other resources such as ground vehicles or air transportation, the services of freelance bounty hunters, if they are often manpower and lacking, and in dire circumstances can summon Imperial military resistance. Their authority surpasses even that of the local planetary governor, who will be closely scrutinized if there is any suspicion that his duties are not being undertaken with a due diligence. If the governor is late in the payment of tithes, is less than thorough in enforcing the population's proper worship of the God Emperor, or is tempted to decline sending troops to the aid of embattled neighbors, the Arbites will be watching. In times of crisis and conflict, it is possible that a planetary governor may be assassinated, deposed, incapacitated, or even implicated in one of the Arbites investigations. If this should happen, then the highest-ranking members of the Adeptus Arbites available on the world has the authority to temporarily take over rulership of the world until a suitable replacement can be put in place. This duty generally falls to the arbitrator with the rank of judge or marshal, but where an isolated world has only a token imperial presence, even the lowest-ranked arbitrators have on rare occasions stepped in to fill the breach. Only through constant vigilance and the execution of brutal law can the Imperium survive, and the Adeptus Arbites carries out this function. While the armies of the Imperial Guard struggle to hold back the aggression of alien empires and protect worlds from without, the Adeptus Arbites roots out rebels and threats to the stability of the Imperium from within. Its agents, collectively known as arbitrators, operate as they best see fit, using their greater training and weaponry to tackle foes that might be beyond the scope of local agencies, or in many cases, to deal with the government, which has itself become corrupted. Remorseless and single-minded, they do not forgive or forget any crime, and pursue their quarry relentlessly until the Emperor's justice has been served. The laws of the Imperium are a complex web of tradition, obligation, and local customs. Thus, they can vary from world to world or sector to sector, with each planetary governor, local prefect, and headman pronouncing his own laws. Arbitrators care little for such trivialities, and enforce the serious crimes against the Imperium, while leaving such petty matters to local officials. Murder or theft, for example, are considered inconsequential unless they affect the Imperium directly, are perpetrated against Imperial officials, or somehow fundamentally threaten a world's security or safety. Arbitrators have little pity or compassion for the aggressions of Imperial citizens. Years of dealing with the scum of the galaxy has made them cynical and bitter. Others have become zealots, seeing the Emperor's hand in the letter of the law, and believing anyone who would break it deserves only death. A few might maintain idealistic notions for bringing order to the Imperium, but the realities of endless, sometimes horrific crimes constantly erode such notions. The arrival of the Arbitrator Patrol is seldom welcome, given the brutal way in which they operate during their investigations, arrests, and executions, even though it might mean an end to the vicious criminal enterprises. An arbitrator must deal with the ineffectual or corrupt local agencies. These are often the arbitrator's greatest foes, as he must clean up a local situation, taking over the unfit local law enforcement of a hive city, orbital station, or even entire planets, to purge it of crime and corruption in a series of bloody and unforgiving sweeps. On Imperial worlds, the Adeptus Arbites is the last, most absolute law, answering only to its commanders and the judges of systems and sectors, and not to local authorities. It is a thankless task for the anonymous, helmeted arbitrators, who usually receive only fear and hatred for his action. He and his cohorts are the final bulwark against heretical uprisings and other major threats. Precinct Fortress is often the last bastion of Imperial rule during revolutions or invasions, holding out to the very end while alerting outside agencies of the dire situation. Each member knows that should he fall, so follows the planet. To merely survive in such a hostile environment, arbitrators must show no hesitation, regret, or compassion for those they protect, and they must consider every citizen guilty until he is proven innocent. The Adeptus Arbites faces a monumental task in enforcing the law across Imperial worlds. Those that take the oaths, don the carapace armor, and wield the shock maul are often obsessive and pitiless individuals, men and women who see the law as an extension of the Emperor's will upon his subjects, and its enforcement their sacred duty. Whether they are skilled in combat or possessed of a keen mind, arbitrators know they face an implacable and remorseless foe, one which they must counter with all talents at their command. To be part of this agency is to be apart from their original surroundings, for after training in the Scholicia Progenium, arbitrators are never assigned to a world of their birth. They are beyond local authorities, serving none but the higher Imperial law. Once a man puts on his distinctive dark armor, he stops being merely a man, and he is now a representative of the greater Imperium upon a world, there to ensure planetary compliance with Imperial law. Arbitrators are always engaged in investigation and enforcement, for crime never sleeps. The surrounding populace overwhelmingly outnumbers them, so it is essential to detect and crush crimes before it grows too strong. On many worlds, they bring massive firepower to bear at the slightest hint of resistance, often reacting to crimes before they occur, and preemptively arresting citizens who are at risk of becoming criminals. Skilled arbitrators are masters of urban conflict and crowd control, with an instinctive understanding of Imperial societies, such as the packed hab-blocks of an overpopulated hive world, or the villages of a feral world, and the different tactics needed to police them. Arbitrators often tap local Vox networks, develop networks of spies and informants, and even infiltrate suspected organizations to snare the lawless in surgical strikes, where their superior weaponry and training can prevail over larger forces. Such investigations require long hours of dedicated detective work, patience, and cunning to root out violations of Imperial law amidst the myriad other offenses against lesser authorities. Their lives are often at risk, and not just from their obvious criminal quarry. During the course of the investigation, all manners of things might come out, including the secrets of powerful individuals. In these cases, arbitrators can face more danger from a supposedly loyal ally than scum they pursue. Something festers in the fabric of the Calixis sector, something that eats away at its foundations, deceives its people, and gnaws at its sanctity. While some in high authority scorn such melodramatic conclusions, there are others who have the foresight and the will to confront this parasite of heresy and rip it out of the body of the population. This is a disease of deviant faith, a worship of false gods, corrupted ideologies, and moral bankruptcy. It is spawning an epidemic of deluded citizens in its wake. It is these citizens who are the malignant flesh of this disease, and it is this flesh that must be cut out. Such is the thesis of Senior Arbiter K. Drusel, who, with the approval of the Lord Sector himself, created the Divisio Immorales. The Divisio Immorales is a special task force of Adeptus Arbites created to combat the growing cultists and degenerates of the Calixis sector. The Divisio is the child of Drusel's vision and obsession, and this task force of the Calixis Adeptus Arbites all look to the gray-haired veteran as their mentor and leader. Drusel believes with total conviction that the rise in cult activity and the numbers of those turning against the Imperial Creed and Imperial law in recent history is no accident. Somewhere behind the scenes, a dreaded purpose pulls the strings to propel the sector towards some terrible, dark future. Authorized and smiled on by the Lord Marshal it may be, but the Divisio has its opponents, and they are all powerful. Some arbitrators within the sector see the Divisio Immorales as a needless oddity at best, and a product of the burnt-out veteran Drusel's paranoia at worst. A few see it as a deliberate overstepping of concerns that rightfully are the sole province of the Ordo Hereticus and the Adeptus Ministorum, just one more avenue by which the Lord Sector hopes to consolidate his power over the entire region. As a result, many shield their most capable and talented officers from transfer to the task force, and Drusel must make do with what she can get: oddballs, burnouts, and occasional promising novice. The Inquisition, for their part, has indulged the Divisio's existence, at least for now. The Divisio Immorales is comparably small, and its senior officer is held in barely veiled contempt by the Adeptus Arbites across the Calixis sector, does not detract them from their fierce dedication to their appointed task. In the absence of the best trained staff, Drusel has selected those who share her obsession. Though they may not be the toughest or most promising arbitrators, most of her wardens fully believe in their commander and are incredibly dedicated to the task that has fallen to them. Many have also come to believe some great and overarching moral threat seeks to envelop the sector, and they have dedicated their efforts to combating the rot they see festering at the heart of most hive cities. They are undoubtedly dedicated, but few are prepared for the things they must encounter, lacking the esoteric learning or defenses that the Inquisition enjoys. In an echo of their mistress, many wardens are strained and brittled men and women. Hard drinking is a common, if not hidden, vice in the Divisio. Trauma fatigue and psychological burnouts are not uncommon in those called to serve in this specialized task force. With authorization to pursue their investigation throughout the sector, the wardens usually operate either alone or in pairs and pursue their own leads, shifting data and lines of inquiry. Such autonomy is the cause of some contention within the Calixian branch of the Adeptus Arbites, but it is not due to the lackness on Drusel's part, as she has explained repeatedly and at length to her contemporaries, but because, with so few wardens and such a large sector to guard, she cannot be everywhere and sign every card up personally. Likewise, their roving and their poor reputation is the cause of a frequent lack of cooperation by local planetary enforcers, and even other members of the Adeptus Arbites. They are often made painfully aware of the limits of their authority. This friction can manifest in ways ranging from a simple denial of resources, or by hamstring the wardens with red tape, to the recent unfortunate disappearance of several wardens looking into the affairs of the Solix Tech sect. Though the wardens may not be well respected, they have proven right on several occasions. Certainly their presence has prevented several atrocities and revolts from occurring in the past. And those were 40 facts on the Adeptus Arbites, the Adeptus Arbites. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, share it with your friends and thank our patrons on Patreon. It's because of them that we can do this. Link in the description if you guys want to support us. The Adeptus Arbites have a cool aesthetic, the Judge Dredd aesthetic. What came first, these guys or Judge Dredd? I'm not too sure. Probably Judge Dredd, I'm going to guess. Comment down below if you guys know the answer to that. But yeah, with that said, I'll talk to you tomorrow. This was Gersh1 with One Mind Syndicate signing out.
Always used to put my freedom first in any situation.